Wow. My goodness. I want to thank Ben and Brian for inviting me. I want to thank the Shield of David for having me. You know, I was once called a flag-waving, Jew-loving Uncle Tom. I once had a date with a very lovely young lady. She was an actress, and she said, "Why are they always making so many movies about the Holocaust?" And I said, well, it was kind of a big deal. It was as if 50% of sub-Saharan Africa had been destroyed in one fell swoop. It's kind of a big deal. I have a friend who was complaining about the power of Jews, she said. And she kept going on, and I said, just curious, what percentage of the world do you think is Jewish? She said, I have no idea. I said, ballpark it. She said, no, I have no idea. I said, ballpark it. She said, 25%. I said, you think 1 in 4 persons in the face of the earth is Jewish? She said, yes. I said, how about 0.2%? She said, oh, 0.2. I said, you didn't listen. I said 0.2%. 14 million Jews, 7 billion people in the world, 0.2%. Had no idea. I had my 21st birthday in the Eternal City. I was sitting over a mountain looking at the beautiful city of Jerusalem, and I said, how many Americans have the honor and the privilege of having their 21st birthday, whether they're Jew or Gentile, overlooking the Eternal City? It was a magical experience. I'm walking through the old city once, and a couple of kids, Palestinian kids, were following me. I had an army jacket on. My little brother was in the army, and the army jacket said elder on it. And I look around, and there's 10 Palestinian kids following me. So I'm walking a little bit more, and pretty soon there's almost 50 kids following me. So I stopped, and they all surrounded me, and we had a little press conference. One of them could speak English reasonably well, and they asked me 3 questions. The first one was, do you know Angela Davis? And I said, personally? They said, yes. I said, no. And the second question was, do you know Muhammad Ali? And I said, personally? They said, yes. I said, no. The third question was, do you know karate, the martial art? And I said, no. They all went away. I told that story many times over the years, and it's really not that funny a story because, frankly, that's all they knew about America. Angela Davis, because she was a communist who basically was anti-America, even though she enjoys her tenureship with a university, won't go there. And they knew about Muhammad Ali because he renounced his religion and became a Muslim. And they knew about karate because if you look around the old city in those days, there are all these posters of karate movies. That's all they knew about America, these Palestinian kids. They knew nothing about Thomas Jefferson, about George Washington, about Frederick Douglass, about MLK. That's all they knew. It's one of the reasons why there's such hatred. You know, I gave a talk before the Anti-Defamation League some years ago, and they did a study, and they found out that anti-Semitism was at an all-time low in America. Roughly 12% or so of Americans would be perceived as being anti-Semitic. But 2.5 times that number of blacks were. Majority of blacks were not anti-Semitic, but the substantial percentage of those who were was much higher than those of other Gentiles who were not black. And I've talked about that, and the reason is because of incredible ignorance about the friend Jews have been to blacks over the years. There's a Jewish man named Julius Rosenwald. He helped Booker T. Washington found the Tuskegee Institute, and at one time, he helped found over 5,000 schools in the South. At one time, 1 out of every 4 black kid was educated in a Rosenwald school. Most blacks are unaware of that. You know the freedom fighters in the early 60s? There were 400 trained by organizations like the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, by other organizations. 400. 200 of them were white, 200 of them were black. Of the whites, it is estimated that between 50% and 75% were Jewish. If you saw the movie Mississippi Burning, about the triple homicide, took place in 1964, Messrs. Scherner, Goodwin, and Cheney were murdered. 2 of them were Jews. 1 was black. In 1984 to 85, and then again in 1991, roughly 20,000 Ethiopian Jews were airlifted out of Africa and taken to Israel, they were facing famine and persecution. Jews helped to co-found the NAACP. Jews are less likely than any other group to hold negative stereotypes of blacks. There was a book called Scar of Race, where a bunch of ethnic groups were asked about the following negative stereotypes of blacks. Are blacks lazy? Are blacks dumb? Are blacks inclined to commit crimes? Are blacks excessively aggressive? Jews were less likely to say yes to any of those stereotypes than even blacks were. Most people, most ethnicities, most races, when they become more and more affluent, become more and more Republican, under the stereotype that Republicans are colder and care less about human beings. Unlike every other group, Jews maintain their allegiance to the Democratic Party for reasons I don't think are very well thought out, but that's not the point. The point is, if you believe the argument that Democrats care more, have more compassion, and I don't believe that, but if you buy that argument, Jews, no matter how affluent, are not likely to renounce their allegiance to the Democratic Party, even though most people are concerned about taxes. The more wealthy you are, the more taxes you pay. Not Jews. Personally, Larry Elder has benefited from so many Jewish friendships over the years. I would not be on radio if it weren't for Dennis Prager. I met Dennis Prager in Cleveland. We were talking briefly. We were on a show called The Morning Exchange. It was a live show. I didn't know who he was. And I began talking about some of my issues. And during the break, he said, "You're not a left-wing person?" I said, "No, I'm a conservative." He said, "How often do you come home to LA?" I was in Cleveland at the time. I said, "I come home during Christmas." He said, "Next time you come home, call me. I'll have you on my radio show." He had me on his show. The station manager heard me, called me, and asked me if I ever thought about doing talk radio. Gave me a 2-day audition. After the second day, he said, "Do you want to do talk radio?" I said, "Yes." He said, "You have this job. Go out tomorrow. Have a good time. Just don't speak so damn quickly." I said, "I don't speak quickly. You hear too slowly." His name was George Green. He was a Jew. When I was in college, I was studying economics. And I was having difficulty because I had not taken math since geometry. I had no calculus, trigonometry, and I needed to have that in order to pass this course. There was a kid in my dorm named Marty Maggot. He got 1B, majored in math. He was a senior. I remember him being in the lobby complaining about his 1B. So I knocked on his dorm and I said, "I need to take this math course and I'm flunking." I had taken 3 or 4 exams in this calculus trigonometry course. I got Fs each time. Professor came to me, put a little note in your box. When you get a note in your box in college from your professor, it's not good news. And it said, "Please come and see me." So I went to see him. He said, "Larry, you're likable. Everybody in class likes you, but you have no clue about math. And if you don't drop out right now, you'll go too far. You won't be able to get out of the course. You'll have an F on your transcript, and I know you don't want that, so I'm advising you to drop out." I said to the professor, "I'm taking economics. I need to take this course in order for me to pass." He said, "Larry, you haven't done anything that tells me you're able to pass the course. Next is the big final. If you don't get at least a B on that, you're going to get an F, and there's nothing you've ever done that says you can even get a D. So I'm urging you, for your own benefit, to flunk out of the course." I said, "I'm not going to do that." I knocked on Marty Maggot's door. I said, "Marty," I told him what I told you. I said, "Marty, would you work with me?" And Marty said, "Yes." So every day for about an hour and a half, 2 hours, he took time out of his schedule and sat with me and went over all of this stuff. And Marty was so brilliant in math. He was able to explain it in ways no one else had done so before. I got a B on the course. I wrote a book about my life and my relationship with my father one time, and I had a chapter about Marty. And my dad said, "Did you ever thank him?" I said, I thanked him at the time. And he said, "Have you ever thanked him since then?" And I said, "No." So I tracked him down, and he was teaching at a major college, which is what he always wanted. And I called him, and I said, "Do you remember me?" And he remembered me. And I said, "I wanted to thank you so much for what you've done for me. My father told me to thank you again." He said, "I've thought about you from time to time, and I really appreciate the fact that you remembered it." And I asked him why he took the time. All you have is time in college. It's the most valuable commodity there is. He said, "There's something about you, Larry. I think something's going to happen to you someday down the road. You're going to be a major, major public figure. I don't know where, how, or what, but I want to play a role in that." No one in my family had ever gone to college, so I didn't know how to choose a college. So I got one of these thick books on colleges, and I'm leafing through it, just trying to find something. And I was sitting at my desk and leafing through, pardon me? 2 minutes. Leafing through, and Mr. Howard Katzman, my government teacher, walked by and he said, "Larry, why are you looking at this college?" And I said, "Well, because it's got rolling admissions." He said, "That's a dumb reason to look for a college. You can do better than that. You ought to be thinking about the Ivy League." And because of him, I ended up applying to and going to Brown University. Howard Katzman. I'm told I only have 2 minutes, so I'm going to make this real short. One of my heroes growing up was Sandy Koufax. The first thing I ever wrote, I always wanted to be a writer, was a poem about Sandy Koufax. And the first stanza goes like this. Koufax is on the mound, the game has just begun, he gets the sign from the catcher, and swish, strike one. Fast forward 35 years later, I meet Sandy Koufax at an event. And I arranged to walk up to him, and I said, "Mr. Koufax, you've always been a hero of mine. The first thing I ever wrote was about you." It was a poem. "May I give you the first stanza?" He said, "Sure." I said, "It goes like this. Koufax is on the mound, the game has just begun, he gets a sign from the catcher, and swish, strike one." He put his hand on my shoulder and he said, "Larry, don't quit your day job." Finally this. Jesse Jackson, Bibi Netanyahu, and David Duke are walking down the beach. They see a magic lantern. They pick it up, they rub it. Genie comes out. "Gentlemen, one wish, whatever you want. You, sir, you go first." Jesse Jackson said, "I want every African-American male, every African-American female, every African-American child to leave this racist country called America and return to their ancestral homeland, the great continent of Africa." Benjamin Netanyahu said, "I want every Jewish American male, every Jewish American female, every Jewish American child to leave the anti-Semitic country of America and return to their ancestral homeland, the great country of Israel." And David Duke went, "I'll have a small Coke. Hold the ice. May God bless you. May God bless Israel. Thank you so much for having me. And don't forget, electelder.com, because I'm going to be the next governor of the state of California. God bless you."